Welcome to the fourth and final episode of the Vows and Oaths series of In the Middle, hosted by Roy and Cedric. They close the series with a discussion of the aftermath of the war in Midian and the tribes that chose to settle on that land. If you'd like to read along, reference passages are in the show notes, and we hope you enjoy this episode of In the Middle.
But in the text, of course, we're in the King James version, it's verse 3, where it says, "So Moses spoke to the people, saying, arm some of yourselves for war, and let them go against the Midianites to take vengeance for the Lord on Midian," right?
Yeah.
1,000 from each tribe of all the tribes
Of all
Israel
the tribes.
shall you send
Even
to
the
war.
Levites.
Exactly.
The Levites are going to war on this one.
Right. So imagine that. Like, they were like, wait a minute, we've been working in the temple. You want us to do what?
Yeah.
So like, no, everybody going, because this is how upset the situation has got the Lord. So we all going to go over there and we're going to handle our business. So they were recruited from the divisions of Israel, 1,000 from each tribe, 12,000 armed for war. Obviously, we know that they won the war.
And nobody died.
And no one died, which is amazing.
Died. This was and the rabbis will say, look, there's a lot of miracles in the Bible, but as far as Bible miracles go, this was a miracle. You pulled in 1,000 from each tribe and nobody died. And I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the fact the Lord had an attitude about this one.
Oh, yeah.
Like he had a problem with this one. And the reason I say that is not just that we went to war, but because nobody died. This wasn't like the other battles.
Right.
This is this is going to happen. We're doing this right now.
Right. And so much so because it talks about that, towards the end of the chapter where, your servants have taken account of the men of war who are under our command, and not a man of us is missing. Not one.
Not one. And
it's tremendous.
Who was the priest that went to war with them on this?
Was it Eleazar?
No.
No.
Well,
that's who Moses and Eleazar came back with him.
The new priest. Maybe he hasn't been crowned as priest yet. It was Phineas.
Yeah,
and
the new priest.
Okay, so our writings talk about he took the garments of the Kohen Gadol with him, of the high priest, and he took, this says utensils. I don't know what your version says. He took the Ark of the Covenant with him.
The holy articles and the signal trumpets in his hand.
And the trumpets.
Right.
So he went in there as Kohen Gadol, as high priest.
Yes.
Eleazar is still, to the best of my knowledge, is still high priest right now. Because when we get back, when Moshe's dying, Moshe leaves these additional rules that they get to on Reuben. Oh, who was it? Reuben, Gad, the half
tribe of Manasseh.
Yeah, of Manasseh. Eleazar has to pass down the rules because Moshe's not there anymore.
Right.
So it's a weird thing going into battle. This guy is leading the charge, the one who ran, the couple through, who had the righteous zeal about him. He's leading the charge as if he is the high priest, which is a weird thing. So that right there was a bit of a sign. Right. The one who was zealous for me,
right?
The one that risked his own life because of his passion and his desire, if you will, for me, I'm putting him at the head of this thing.
Right.
So it's just, I would have, this sounds bad. I would have loved to have seen this one. Because there's no way
right.
in the text you can draw out everything that's sitting there. We get everything that shows this is different, because when God appoints a person to lead the battle, whether that be a man or an angel, that's a different kind of a battle.
Exactly.
That's different than just Israel going to war. And it's a little bit different even if you look at David and Jonathan, where David was crazy. It's just David and Jonathan.
Right.
And we're going to go fight all these people. And then his comment is, well, how do we know whether the Lord will save by few or many? Yeah, but that whole question, how do we know? That's not a dill sealer. Like, we don't know. He might deliver by a few. He might not deliver by a few. That's not even a good equation. But anyways, David would do this, and he'd wait on the Lord, and he'd go into battle. That's still different. One of the few times we see this kind of battle, and I don't have it in my mind right now, but it's where the Lord sends the angel before them. And I think, and we've talked about this before, and he takes out like 40,000 people. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what the battle was right now, but when he gets involved like that, yeah, it's not pretty. Right. I hate saying it, but it's a bloodbath.
Right.
Yeah.
So we know as after the bloodbath, the children of Israel took the women of Midian captive.
Yeah.
With their little ones, and took as spoil all their cattle, all their flocks, and all their goods. They also burned with fire all the cities where they dwelt and all their forts. And they took all the spoil and all the booty of man and beast. So they do this thing. They kill the kings of Midian, all 5 of them, and they get and they keep all the women.
Yeah.
And they come back.
The women that created this mess.
Yes, the exact same women.
There's a man for you.
Right.
I mean, she done got
Slow
your house,
learner,
your
let me
car.
tell you.
You're paying alimony to 3 women, but yes, bring her back.
Right.
That's the one you want to keep.
Right. So, after all this they done went through, here they go, just messing up again. And they bring the captives back and all the spoil. And the text says, Moses,
he's upset.
Oh, yes. And Moses, Eleazar the priest, and all the leaders of the congregation went to meet them outside the camp. But Moses was angry with the officers of the army, with the captains over thousands and captains over hundreds who had come from battle. And Moses said to them, have you kept all the women alive?
Okay, real quick. The reason the scripture points out captains over hundreds, captains over 1,000 was not just talking about their authority. These are wise people.
Right.
These are people capable of making hard decisions. This is one of the reasons, like, why he's so indignant about it. Like, wait, these are our top guys here.
Right.
I mean, this is the president, for crying out loud.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. These are the ones that when Jethro told me, get groups that can handle these and groups that can handle those, and I've been entrusting them to.
And the spirit of Moses was put in them.
Yeah, exactly.
By the Lord.
So why is it that they made this crazy decision? Did you forget already? We just went through this.
Yeah.
Right. So he said, look, these women caused the children of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to trespass against the Lord in the incident of Peor. And this was a plague among the congregation of the Lord. Now, therefore, kill every male among the little ones and kill every woman who has known a man intimately. But keep alive for yourselves all the young girls who have not known a man intimately. And as for you.
Where's the scripture on that has known a man intimately? What number is that?
It's verse 18 in the King James version.
Chapter what?
Chapter 31.
31. I want to find that and see what I have, because our writings are a little bit different. So 31:18, right?
Yes.
But all the young children among the women who have not known lying with a male, you may keep alive for yourselves. We actually have that any woman of childbearing age was killed, is in our writings. That's not in the Tanakh. That's not directly in the Torah portion of the Chumash here. That's in the commentary. So I don't, that's why I was wanting to check, because the thinking was this, is that these were, they played the harlot. These were well-trained women on this. This wasn't, and it can't be just any woman, And so you're kind of talking about kind of a secret service of Midian, if you will, or elite force. And so the lore or the history of it is not only were they effective, but they were already training other young women to walk in this. So in our writings say the only women that were kept were those that had not yet become of about childbearing age. So anyways, go ahead. I just thought that was interesting.
Right. So, there's so much going on in this moment, but ultimately, Moshe's response is, like, dude, really?
Yeah, he's mad.
We just went. That's like, because if, I don't know, I've encountered, friends over the years that have struggled with being faithful in their relationships. Some of them, just dating girls, but, couldn't pick just one to be with, or wouldn't. Or in some cases marriage, and struggled with infidelity in their marriage. And it's like, dude, you just came to me talking about, man, I need to, and I feel so guilty and blah, blah, blah. And I counseled you and you got that straight. And, and then here's another one. This ain't even the same one, dude. So like, what is going on? And the frustration. So, but in this case, it's thousands of people lost their lives because of the last time.
Yeah.
And here we are. We done finally got this straight. God has ran down this whole concept of the vows and oaths. So we understand, hey, dude, just stop, cut it out, get it together. Remember what it is that you're even supposed to be in the context of this community that you are a part of. We all, vowed together before on Mount Sinai. You may not recall it, but your parents did it, and then they taught you. So at the end of the day, you're supposed to know this God that we serve. What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, yours says kill every woman who's had intercourse. Yeah. Mine says kill every woman who is old enough to have intercourse.
Right. And so they do all of the divvying up, because they do the division of plunder, and the women fall in with everything else, the goats, the land, the cattle, and the women. Everything is divided up. And, so many, like I think it's 1 out of every 500 for the soldiers. And then for the common 50th, people, 1 out of every 50.
They split it in half, but the tax was 1/50th.
Yeah.
So they took between the congregation, which would be the rest of Israel, and I know someone's like 36,000 cattle, and then whatever 1/50th, and that would be the tax. And the interesting thing is the tax is also so when they split the whole number in half, the tax comes from each side. One tax, it says, is for the Lord. One tax goes to the Levites.
Right.
Typically, if it's for the Lord, you know what that's referring to?
It's going to be consumed.
The priest.
The priest.
Yeah, the priest. Yeah. Because I was looking for that, and it didn't specifically say, but typically in Scripture, when it's for the Lord, then it's to the priest, because the priest will consume it in the presence of the Lord.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how does that work with a woman? I don't even.
Well, I know.
Wait.
Because it doesn't come up again, and I wonder about that, because you have these young ladies pre-childbearing age, according to this. You don't really hear about it again after that.
Right.
I mean, the Levites are still a city. They're still a tribe, and they're still indentured servitude and things like that. But it doesn't. In my writings, it doesn't come up again. But what does come up is the purification process, which is a blip in this Torah portion that we can't get into, because it's the red heifer. And I'm not ready for the red heifer just yet, because that's a big one. But we know not only did the Jews or did the Israelites have to purify themselves if they've come into contact, if they took a life or come into contact with the corpse, they had to purify themselves. They had to purify all the utensils, as did the people they brought into captivity. Exactly. Had to purify them from death. And there's a reason for it there. I'm not ready to tackle it.
And every metal that they captured or whatever that had to be put through fire and water, everything that could not go through fire had to go through water.
If it was tainted by fire, it had to be purified by fire. That's one thing in ours is whatever was used to, what would you call it? Well, to taint it, that's pretty much the same thing you would do to purify it. So it was a fight fire with fire. There's one more thing I want to get to, and it's well, this was a double portion. Is it on this one or is it at the end? This is where that Reuben and God
the settling
they want
east
to settle.
Of the Jordan. Yeah,
we're because man,
that starts in the very next chapter.
That's almost 32. A heartbreaker. 32.
Yeah,
I thought we were already in 32.
No, that was 31. So the children of Reuben and the children of Gad, they're looking around at all the land that God has conquered, before they've even gotten to the Jordan, and they're like, you know what, we are cattle people, and this land is perfect for managing cattle on. This is perfect. Like the greenery here that grows is it's good for cattle. It's the landscape itself, where there's hills and the natural things to keep the cattle kind of pinned in, where the mountains are, and yada yada. And we got the river that runs through here. This is prime real estate for cattle ownership. Like, can we just stay here? Like, do we even got to go over there? Is it necessary?
And the request
and Moshe is like, dude, the last time anybody asked for that, we spent 40 years in the desert.
Yeah.
I don't have another 40 years. I just got told that after that last battle, I'm going to die. We don't have another 40. I can't, look, it's just going to be y'all, because I ain't going to be here.
Yeah.
So off the top, the answer is like, no. Like, what are you even talking about? And how are you even thinking about You just getting yours, and then the rest of the children of Israel are going to go on and fight, missing two of the or 2.5 tribes. We got to go fight these enemies. How?
The interesting thing, they negotiated with God.
Yeah.
So one of the things is first of all, when they petition Moshe, they speak of the livestock first, and then their children.
Right.
It's good for our livestock, and we can take care of our children there, which is flipped. When Moshe responds back from the Lord, yes, you can have that land for your children and for your livestock. Israel has been postured as an agricultural country.
Right.
Now, the rabbis say they would have ended up with this land in the end anyways. If I can be honest with you, I don't see it. I don't see it. This looks very much to me like an add-on that was never supposed to happen. And what's funny, if you go to Joshua 20, it's chapter 22 in the book of Joshua, they've already settled there. This is after, this has taken place. And now it should also be mentioned that the deal they made with Moshe, they negotiated. They were businessmen.
Right.
Not only will we fight with the rest of Israel for them to get their inheritance, but we will lead the pack.
Yeah.
And after we've established their inheritance, then basically automatically ours kicks in at the same time, and then we'll go home. But we'll leave our livestock, our wives, and our children there while they're away. And so they say, okay, that's done. Now, so you have the tribe of Gad, G-A-D, you have the tribe of Reuben, and then you have half of the tribe of Manasseh. Manasseh's a little tricky. I don't know. You can't tell if Manasseh happened as part of this negotiation, because Manasseh comes in just a few scriptures later where that gets added.
Right.
Our writing suggests Moshe added that Moshe actually split Manasseh to make it legit. But in Joshua 22, they build an altar. Because here's the thing. All right, this area is Transjordan. It's on the east bank of the Jordan River.
Right.
The Israelites are going to the west bank of the Jordan River, and that's Israel, for all 12 tribes. And matter of fact, they even say we will forego our inheritance over in Canaan.
Right.
And we'll stay over here in Transjordan. So they were gone, and the other half of Manasseh was over in Israel on the Canaan side. So they were going to get an inheritance there. But the issue is they're concerned about a division between the nation. Now, one thing, there's a scripture where Moshe responds and says, you will be free from Israel, and you will be free from the Lord.
Right.
You got
your obligation to the Lord and Israel will be after you complete your vow.
Yeah.
You going back over there, and I'm like, so wait a minute, I'm no longer in the nation because I'm on the other side of the river. Hold up.
There's no definite statement on that, though. So what happens is the leaders of these tribes over here on the east bank, they set up an altar, like an altar to the Lord. That is not permissible. God chose the land, the exact spot where this city would be, where this temple would be, and that's what long ago, the Lord had already said, you're not going to have altars the way you do now, where everyone kind of does what they want, how they want. It's going to be one altar, and you're all going to come to that altar. So they set up an altar, and I think it's Pinchas or it might be Eleazar, it might be Eleazar. The Israel basically starts lining up against the Jordan. This is in Joshua 20:22, we're going to war with you guys. You set up an altar to the Lord? That's a sin. We're gonna wipe you out. So it's either Pinchas or Eleazar comes in and talks to them, and they said, no, we set up the altar, but we're not going to do anything with it. We're not making any sacrifices. Well, then what's the altar for? So y'all don't forget, and so we don't forget. But it was when Israel responds, they said they set up their altar on the Israel side, or facing the Israel side. So you've got the Jordan River here, Israel's here, and here's the altar instead of on the other side. So Israel is already putting a little bit of separation, say, hey, this is on our side, Israel's side. They did it on the Transjordan, the Jews on the Transjordan side, to say, we never want our kids to forget that we're part of that.
Right.
So it's a weird thing. I mean,
we fought for that, so we want our children to remember we're a part of that.
I mean, they're wanting to stay where the battle took place, basically.
Right.
The War of Midian. Now, what is interesting, though, a little bit of trivia, this is where Elijah comes from, is this same place. He was the outsider. This might be I have to, if I had a couple minutes earlier to look up where Sham is. Sham is Zesham. Zesham is this here, Zepho, No, Sham is there. It's there.
Hmm.
So this word, this city, Sham, so we're here, they're over there.
Okay.
So, and it kind of does speak to the outside. I'd have to dig a little bit further in that, look at where, the waste was sent on the city, that sort of thing. But by every indication, it does look like they were kind of now pushed out. I mean, and there were civil wars, by the way, that I think that took place even later with the North Kingdom, South Kingdom, and all of that.
Right.
So I'm not in agreement with their decision. No one asked me. I meant to show you a video when you got here. It's a very interesting thing. There's these people in Africa, and they've got a synagogue over there, and they proclaim to be the lost city of the lost tribe of God. And so my rabbi at the time went there, and you've traveled abroad, right? Mm-hmm. Missionary work, stuff like that. You learn when you travel to another country, to another people, you keep your mouth closed, your ears open, you find out the lay of the land. Like when I went and spent time with the Maasai tribe, and even though it's illegal, they can run you through with their spears if you offend them, and no one's going to do anything about it. So you try not to offend them. You find out what's offensive. When I'm done eating, do I throw it on the ground? Do I offer it to people? All those kinds of things. So he goes in. This is an African people group. I forgot where at in Africa, but they proclaim that they're the tribe of God. The first thing he does is insults them. He calls them out on the sin for staying behind during this story. And I'm thinking, that's like, in my mind, I'm thinking that's the dumbest thing you could do. And then I see the king smiles and he accepts the rebuke. And it dawned on me, what happened was the king said, you're accepting us back in. But if for him to rebuke him means, I believe you, you're the lost tribe of God, and you shouldn't have done that, So it was something that kind of sealed. It's a neat. I have to get you the video. It's kind of a neat moment. They've got a mezuzah on the door to the synagogue, way too high to reach it. Like someone didn't give them that lesson.
Right.
You need a step ladder to reach up there. But they've set up a synagogue, and that's where they've been for the last, couple of thousand years on their own, worshiping on their own. So it's an interesting little story. But yeah, that whole story there, I don't know any spiritual significance between being a husbandman or working with cattle and sheep versus working with agriculture. But when you're reading through the promises of God, they're agricultural in nature. Not just that. I mean, everyone had, because in all of these cities, when it was broken up and it was split up among the tribes, there was always a city for the Levites. And then there was, in part of that city for the Levites, there had to be clear land. And that's where it was like open grazing. So they had animals, but they weren't set up predominantly as a livestock type nation.
Right.